This, my friends, is the 2024 Buick Envista ST. And you may have noticed something right off the bat. Yeah, look at that swoopy back. Who's a swoopy back car? You are. Now, there is something to keep in mind about this vehicle. We are giving you a walk around tour. We're going to show you all the little features in it, but we cannot drive it yet and tell you how it is. But we can't drive it, we just can't really tell you how it is. Yeah, there's an embargo, sorry. But there are a couple things I can tell you. For one thing, this is essentially a Chevy Trax in a tuxedo. Yeah, that's right. They share almost all the same mechanicals and a lot of the other components that are inside this vehicle. As such, you may be thinking to yourself, well, this has got to be a lot more expensive because it's a Chevy Trax, but it's wearing a tuxedo. And you'd be right, but not a crazy amount of money. As a matter of fact, this vehicle is price-wise the least expensive way you can get into a Buick. That's right. This is the entry-level vehicle. And as pretty as you may find it, you may have noticed there's one thing that's missing back here, and I'll give you a hint. Little hint. I don't know why people are doing this so often. It drives me crazy. I guess it's because I live in snow country, and I much prefer having a wiper. Yeah, I know you're like, well, it'll just slide right off the bat. No, it won't. Not necessarily, not in sticky snow. We're not going to go there right now. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let's start with what powers this vehicle, because there's only one powertrain. And you do not get all-wheel drive, even as an option. Sorry. But what you do get, if I can find it, yeah, there it is a thumping 1.2 liter turbocharged engine. Yes, I said 1.2 liter. It's a 3-cylinder. Here it is. And it even says turbo on top of it. How cute. Look at that. And it puts out 136 horsepower and 162 pound-feet of torque. I apologize, guys. Been inundated with Buicks. 6-speed automatic transmission, no CVT. That's good news. Only powering the front wheels. Now, there are no official EPA numbers yet, but we suspect that it'll get in the low 30s combined. Why? Well, if you look at its cousin, once again, the Chevy Trax, and you look at their mileage and the fact that it's a little bit heavier, it just makes sense. That's not a bad thing. We drove the Chevy Trax, and I think that the engine was perhaps a little adequate, so we'll find out if it is on this one, but once again, we can't tell you about it quite yet. All right, let's close that hood, and let's talk about the styling, because a lot going on here. Now, first of all, the front end, it's actually a fairly athletic looking front end for a Buick. Why? Because it's got 3 shields. Yeah, they brought that back, baby. Old school Buick there. And then, of course, you have the overall design of the front end. Actually, they went through a lot of trouble sculpting the hood, you can tell. You can see like the designers were frustrated that once again they had to build a crossover, so they're like, I'm gonna make the hood really cool, and they did it. And then let's go to the back, because really that's the story, right? Now, if you look at the back, you may be asking yourself, well, aren't they going to lose utility by doing that? And the answer is yes. Yes, you are. But what you get is this fastback design, which if you don't like it, you might want to talk to the German manufacturers and actually several Japanese ones, because they're all doing this. They're doing versions of their vehicles where it was a proper crossover SUV design, and they cut it off to make this. And I think that Buick managed to get away with it in this case. Some other automakers go a little overboard. But before we open the trunk and show you how much space you've lost, I wanted to point out these rear wheels. Because it's the ST, you get these black ones. These are 19-inch wheels. I'm wearing Continental rubber. Now, the ST, like other Buicks, is a mid-level package. It's kind of their sporty version. You can get a nicer one, the Avenir, or there is a base model, which we will talk about. Now, in the back, by the way, this is the new Buick design. Once again, 3 shields, and it says Buick right across the back. The Envista has around 42 cubic feet of cargo space as opposed to its brother that has around 50. That's because of this. So you are losing utility. However, I gotta say, having the ability to fold down the seat fairly flat, that's very helpful. But I wanted to show you something else. Ba-bang! Now I know that's like, oh, okay, spare tire, that's nice. Yeah, but look at all this extra spaces here. Look, this goes up here. So you've got all of this extra space to put stuff in. It's actually rather remarkable. I am thrilled that they have a spare tire and they have all this extra space. So good on Buick for adding extra space. And when I say Buick, I also mean Korea, because that's where all of these are built. Now, yes, that's right, power liftgate, right? That's luxury. Let's look at the back real quick. I'm gonna pull up this seat and I'm gonna sit behind myself. Now I've been driving this car, I'm around 6'1", and I'm a chunky monkey. And now I'm gonna sit behind myself. Huh, that's interesting. So despite the scalloped roof, or whatever you wanna call it, I have just enough headroom. If I put my head as far back as possible, then it touches. But because I slouch, and most humans do a little bit, it's actually fine. And legroom is actually quite good, considering the size of the vehicle. I'm impressed with the legroom. Back here, there isn't a whole lot going on. There are no vents, which is a bummer, but you do have USB and USB-C here, so you can hook up your little fan and just plug it in and try to get some air right there. Sorry, guys. And unlike the Encore, this doesn't have a panoramic sunroof. This is sort of a standard sunroof over there, which, I don't know, you have all this extra roof space. It's kind of a bummer. There is no center armrest that comes down here. That is interesting and a little tragic for some of you. Yep. But I would say this, for a small family car, the Munchkins would fit in here with no problem. And the rear door is actually pretty big. So ingress and egress is actually quite good for a car this size. Yeah, look at that. No problem there. Now, there are a couple of issues, but I think I could discuss those with you if you come to the inside with me. Huzzah! Blue pinstripes, piping, and stitching. Okay, car, come on. Wow, it just talks to me. That is actually really, I love that. I love that they're spending more time adding some more goodies to the seats to make you feel a little bit special. The ST, which is stitched onto the headrest, is a nice thing, especially if you slam into somebody and it embosses itself in the back of your head, which probably would happen to a baldy like me. But for the most part, the seats and the front section of the interior look quite good. However, look, they had to find a way to save money on this car, right? And this is what they did. That's okay. That's not so okay. And then, uh-oh, yeah. I'm one of those guys who likes to drive with their arm up here. Now down here, it's a little bit better material. And you do have some interesting patterns on the door, including this little kind of chrome fake plasticky thing here. But it's not bad looking. It breaks up the image a little bit, and I like the fact that they did that. Personally speaking, I'd love it if Buick would go for like a lighter gray here to break up this massive black, right? But maybe that's just me. Now let's talk about these screens. I'm gonna fire up the car in a second. We're gonna go for a little ride. Once again, I can't tell you, we're not gonna drive it, but we're gonna fire up the engine and turn on the screens. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, that's it. Okay. First of all, you may notice pretty much like very few knobs. I do like the fact that General Motors has the heating and air conditioning system all hooked up right here with proper knobs and buttons. That makes me happy because I can't stand having to hit the screen in order to use this. All right, let's fire it up. Once again, 1.2 liter engine. Not a ton of sound. You're not going to get a whole lot. Now, just like the Encore, you have an 8-inch screen in front of the driver and an 11-inch screen right here. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto wireless. Yes, you can get that. Also, I believe, is that a charge point? It most certainly is. Wireless charging right there, my friends. Right. 6-speed auto right here, as opposed to a CVT, which I'm very grateful for, by the way. And then the rest of the interior really is very similar to what you would get in a Chevrolet Trax. I like the flat bottom steering wheel. It's especially good with guys with girth. And these sight lines are pretty good out front, but you know, I'll have to give you my actual response to how it is in the back when I do the full drive video, which is coming in the near future. All right, so what about pricing? Well, let's talk about that on the outside. Oh, it reminded me that there's somebody in the back seat. That's great. Prices start around $23,000. That is, for a car like this, more than competitive. Yes, 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 this is essentially a Chevy Trax underneath, but you're getting a lot of extra kit for the dough. So that's something to keep in mind. In the near future, we will have a full review where I'll be unbiased and direct with you. Even though Buick flew us out here and gave us interesting cheese to eat, I will still be completely honest with you about how I feel about this vehicle. One thing's for sure, the 3 shields are back. Hallelujah. I'll see you guys soon.